The Artemis program is a human spaceflight program led by NASA to explore the Moon, aiming for its first touchdown on the lunar South Pole by 2025. If successful, the Artemis program will perform the first crewed lunar landing mission since Apollo 17 in 1972. Apollo 17 was the final mission of NASA's Apollo program, the most recent time humans have set foot on the Moon, or traveled beyond low Earth orbit. Commander Gene Cernan and Lunar Module pilot Harrison Schmitt walked on the Moon, while Command Module pilot Ronald Evans orbited above. The Artemis program began in December 2017, as part of successive efforts to revitalize the U.S. space program. NASA's stated, short-term goal for the program is landing the first woman and first person of color on the Moon. Mid-term objectives include establishing an international expedition team and a sustainable human presence on the Moon. Long-term objectives for Artemis are laying the foundations for the extraction of lunar resources, and eventually making crewed missions to Mars and beyond feasible. The Artemis program is organized around a series of space launch systems. These space missions will increase in complexity and are scheduled to occur at intervals of a year or more. NASA and its partners have planned Artemis 1 through Artemis 5 missions. Artemis 1, 2022, will be an uncrewed test of the SLS, Space Launch System, and Orion, and is the first test flight for both craft. The goal of the Artemis 1 mission will be to place Orion into a lunar orbit, and then return it to Earth. The SLS will use the ICPS second stage, which will perform the translunar injection burn to send Orion to lunar space. Orion will break into a retrograde distant lunar orbit and remain for about 6 days before boosting back toward Earth. The Orion capsule will separate from its service module, re-enter the atmosphere for aerobraking, and splash down under parachutes. Artemis 1 was originally scheduled for late 2021, but the launch date has been pushed back to no earlier than August 2022. Artemis 2, 2024, will be the first crewed test flight of SLS and the Orion spacecraft. The 4 crew members will perform extensive testing in Earth orbit, will then be boosted into a free return trajectory around the Moon, which will return Orion back to Earth for re-entry and splashdown. Artemis 3, 2025, will be a crewed lunar landing. The mission depends on a support mission to place a human landing system in place in a near rectilinear orbit of the Moon, prior to the launch of Orion. Orion will send the Orion spacecraft with a crew of 4, which is intended to include the first woman and the first person of color to land on the Moon, to rendezvous and dock with HLS. 2 astronauts will transfer to HLS, which will descend to the lunar surface and spend about 6.5 days on the surface. The astronauts will perform at least 2 EVAs on the surface before the HLS ascends to return them to a rendezvous with Orion. Orion will return the 4 astronauts to Earth. Artemis 4, 2026, is a crewed mission to the Lunar Gateway Station in NRHO, using an SLS Block 1B. A prior support mission will deliver the first 2 gateway modules to NRHO. Artemis 5 and beyond are proposed to land astronauts on the lunar surface, where they will take advantage of increasing amounts of infrastructure that are to be landed by support missions. These will include habitats, rovers, scientific instruments, and resource extraction equipment. Artemis is the path for the human race reaching to be a multi-planet species. It will pave the way for the next journey and visions of colonizing the planet Mars. It will be quite the challenge. Will mankind be up for the task? Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.